Hey guys, I'm here to review Them Season 2, The Scare. First, I would recommend watching this show, especially if you like psychological thrillers, horror movies, such as like Jordan Peele's horror movies, or horror movies and thrillers where there's an underlying tone or backstory revolving around racism, black history, and things of that nature. I did enjoy and understand the season a lot more easily than the first one because it connected a lot of dots, but you do need to watch both seasons to understand the full story. So this season is 8 30-minute episodes. It's easily bingeable in 1 to 2 days. And I would rate season 2 a 8 out of 10. From this point forward, the review will have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show and you want to watch it, watch the show and then come back to the review to see the rest and see the comments. And the show is on Prime Video. Okay, so this season focuses heavily on generational racial trauma being passed down even unknowingly. So season 1 revolved around a family moving from North Carolina to LA during the Second Great Migration and experiencing extreme racism and evil supernatural forces attacking them. This season is set in LA in 1991, around the time that Rodney King got beat and there was a bunch of riots going on. Dawn Reeves is a LAPD detective, and this is set almost 40 years after the first season, Covenant, where Deborah Iorendi also starred. So this is Deborah, and this is her again. So by the end of the show and this review, you'll understand why she reprised her role, even though she's not playing the same character. So Dawn is responding to a slaying of a foster home mother named Bernice Mott. It's clear that this case is having a major effect on her, like she's going home trying to physically put herself in a position that they found the lady in, which was like under the kitchen sink, like that cabinet where you usually have all your cleaning supplies. She was like stuffed in there. And there are a few other cases throughout the season that Dawn gets called to investigate, and she keeps getting that similar close feeling as if it has something to do with her, which is the same feeling she got with the first case with the foster mom. Some of the other cases were a father who was single, he had a baby, but he was selling drugs. And there was also a set of twins, Asian girls, and they ended up dead. All of these cases were confusing to Dawn, and it seemed like something supernatural, but her racist partner McKinney wasn't helping her or on the right side of things, and he wanted to just pin all of these situations on the people closest to the victims. It later gets revealed in the season that McKinney is a part of like a Blue Lives Matter white supremacy type of group. So while all of this is going on, we're seeing the story of Edmund Gaines, who's an aspiring actor, and I was initially confused on what the connection between him and Dawn was going to be, but I was suspecting that he was the serial killer who was, responsible for all of these cases that Dawn is investigating. So in his story, we see that he's been trying to land roles and failing. He learns about a serial killer role and ends up really getting into the character in an unhealthy way. Like, what do they call that? Method acting, when somebody really starts living like their character. And he's also showing signs of like depression and wanting to delete himself. Eventually, we do gather the connection. We realize that everything we're seeing about Edmund is in the past because he's already dead, so he's not the killer. Edmund did delete one person in his life, which wasn't connected to the current cases that Dawn was investigating, and he committed suicide before the police could arrest him. It was at this time that the entity, which is the red haired man or the scare, comes to him and begins terrorizing LA because he gives his soul to the scare. And this is what leads to all the current cases that Dawn is investigating. This also connects to the Raggedy Ann doll, which will be an important thing later. So the red hair man is like the red hair from the Raggedy Ann doll, so keep that in mind. We also learned that Edmund and Dawn are long lost twins who were given up for adoption. Pam Grier, who played Dawn's adoptive mother Athena, revealed this to her mid-season. The first victim that I mentioned, the abusive foster mother Bernice Mott, it is also revealed that they were in custody of the twins until they were about 3 years old. Edmund remembered everything, including Dawn, but Dawn forgot everything, including Edmund. Dawn eventually ended up settled with a good adoptive family, which probably helped her to block and forget that time in her life. But Edmund was constantly in and out of the system, and he never really got settled. And even during the show, he tried to visit one of his former foster parents and got rejected. It's also revealed that Edmund had also lived with Dawn and Athena, Pam Grier's character, for a short time, but Athena eventually sent him back to foster care due to an incident that led to her husband's death, and she blamed Edmund for that. And the scare entity takes out Athena for this mid-season. Lastly, we learned that before Edmund's death, he attempted to go meet Dawn, but he introduces himself as a new neighbor when she doesn't remember or recognize him, and he began to act a bit weird and erratic, which led to Dawn threatening to arrest him and telling him not to come back to her home or neighborhood. So he never revealed to her that he was her brother, and this devastated him and further depressed him. Eventually, when all of the pieces were being connected, Dawn did remember the, incident when he came to her house, and she was like, wow. So she did feel bad about that, obviously. We also learned that Dawn and Edmund's birth mother is Ruby Lee Emery, who played the daughter in season 1. So that's her on the cover of season 1, the teenage daughter, which would make Ruby's mom Lucky, Dawn's grandmother, which kind of explains why she's a spitting image of her and why they were played by the same actress. We also learned that when Ruby Lee leaves the twins with Bernice Mott, she leaves them with the white Raggedy Ann dolls, which explains the connection to why Edmund found comfort in the Raggedy Ann doll and became the red-haired man entity. And if you remember in season 1, this is a clip of Ruby. She wanted to be white and went as far as to paint herself white and do whiteface. So her leaving the kids with the white Raggedy Ann doll is not a surprise. Another important plot that was closed, the racist cop I mentioned earlier, McKinney, tried to kill Dawn, but she ended up killing him with the help of another officer who was a really good guy. He's standing right there. And Dawn is also cleared of all charges for this because there was a recording of him saying some crazy stuff about him deleting someone he had detained before named Lamar Watkins and getting away with it and basically doing it just based off of him being racist. So 6 months later, we see Dawn sitting with her son and her child's father. Yes, her child's father, who I believe she got back with by the end of the season, is played by Iman Shumpert, Tiana Taylor's husband or ex-husband. Sorry for the jump scare, y'all. So in the last scene of season 2, Dawn is looking at a box she got with some photos of Lucky, Ruby, Chester, and her grandfather. And just as she's realizing that her and Lucky look exactly alike, she starts to hear some strange footsteps coming up the stairs to her bedroom. And it is the tap dance man from season 1 who once tormented her grandfather. He immediately begins harassing her, laughing, tap dancing, and like shouting his what you gonna do song over and over again. So this leaves us with a nice cliffhanger for season 3 to follow maybe an older Dawn and her son who was also being haunted by the scare throughout this season. And a quick explanation on the tap dance man. So he torments black people and tries to make them go insane, particularly the Emery family bloodline. He preys on his victims' insecurities that white people viewed him as a tap dancer or a sellout at best and a violent criminal at worst. To embody this caricature, he appears as a black man, although it was revealed in season 1 that he was actually a white man in blackface. He claimed that he was a black slave who got his fingers cut off as punishment and vengefully advocated for causing harm to white people since, but this is really just a reverse psychology tactic to encourage his black victims to ruin their own lives. The only thing that confused me about this is that I thought at the end of season 1, Dawn's grandfather had took him out, but I guess because he's an entity, he might have the means to come back, and he really is the most horrifying character I've seen on this show yet, so him returning makes sense. So overall, I definitely recommend you check this show out. Like I said, 8 out of 10 rating for this season. I think I would have rated season 1 like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. This definitely connected dots, and I feel like they stepped it up. So check this show out on Prime Video, seasons 1 and 2. I still left out a lot, so you guys will still have some scares and surprises. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we will be back with our next video soon.